Hello everyone, and welcome to a different sort of video on the channel where I'll be teaching you on After Effects how to make the team sheet lineup that I've been doing in some of my series lately, such as the Sunderland one, the Portsmouth one, and what will be upcoming in the new Capital Cities Challenge, because I think this video will go out either after the first episode or before it. If it's gone out after the first episode, then just pretend that I haven't actually done it yet. A lot of you have been asking how I actually do the lineup in After Effects, how I animate it to go into the position that I want, into the formation that I played in the game, etc, etc. And I'm just going to basically teach you the basics on how these players move into position. So as they come up onto the screen, and then I talk about them, and then they move into the formation which I've placed them in. So obviously in this scenario, I think it was like a 4-2-3-1 or something like that. Oh no, it was a 4-3-3. My bad, I got that completely wrong. But basically all it will be doing as I was skipping through is that the players will come up, and I'll be teaching you how to do that, and then how the players then move and scale down into the position onto the team sheet. I won't be teaching you everything about this, like how, you know, the formation then goes like all together, and in the Capital Cities Challenge, you know, how to make it more advanced so it's like a 3D space. I think that I'll leave for like a while, because that's what makes me unique. But anyway, we're going to get into it. I'm going to stop babbling on. So the only two programs you really need are Photoshop and After Effects. Now, some people might do a majority of it in After Effects, and it might be easier. I just prefer doing all the like pictures into Photoshop and then importing them into After Effects after, because it's just easier for me, and you know, I like it being easy. So as we can see here, the player photo has the name underneath, the number they play, and then obviously it's on a transparent background. So it's obviously easier for me to then move into After Effects and work with it, rather than if I had a background on it, then it would just go all over the place. But in this example, obviously we have Ricky Alvarez. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that obviously Ricky Alvarez doesn't actually play for Sunderland. And now if you're watching this and you're not really into football, he doesn't play for the team that is on it. I photoshopped his head onto there. But as you can see, like, just disappears, appears, disappears, appears, etc. But we're going to take an example. Now, I'm just going to get rid of that. And we're just going to take, for example, you've got like Paddington there. Then obviously we'll change the title underneath and save it as a PNG. Now, I'm going to show you quickly how I do that. So, especially this works with Premier League teams. Now, you want to create a square. So I normally do 400 by 400, and then you want to go to Google. Now, forget the tabs, I'm traveling, or I'm currently traveling, so, you know, I'm trying to make sure everything goes right for my trip. I'm babbling on. Anyway, so we go to the Premier League website we got here, and we're going to take, for example, I'm just trying to think of it. We're going to take Man City, for example. So you type in Manchester City to get the team up. Then it will take you to the club. You want to click Club Home. Then go to squads, and then you see all these players have got their like squad pictures on there. Now we're just going to take a bigger player for City. So let's take, for example, Kevin De Bruyne. Now if you go onto this page and then right click his image and save the image as, it will save the render, so it hasn't got a background behind it. Now I put all the players into a folder just for easier access. So I have a Photoshop folder, then I think it's on the graphics, then football renders. So you can see that all these players that I've used in series or I've used in YouTube videos are all in this folder for me to then use into Photoshop. So we're just going to save him as Kevin De Bruyne. There we go. So that's now saved. So now it's obviously on Google Chrome. So now what we're going to do is click and hold to download there. Then go into Photoshop, and then it will snap exactly to the size of the canvas. So as you can see, it's now fitted inside the 400 by 400 square. Now normally I think the image is 500 by 500. So obviously it scaled it down automatically for me. So obviously it helps the bundle. So now obviously we've got Kevin De Bruyne there. Now, we're going to do a very basic shape above him. I don't want to get too into this. I mean, this isn't really the main part of the episode or the tutorial, but I wanted to just show you. So, we're just going to put like a blue sort of box over him. Put some text. So, we'll put Kevin... Oh, I mean, I've got to change the font color. So, Kevin De Bruyne. So if you want to know which font I'm using a font called Din Pro. It's very good. I use it for pretty much all of my segments for like After Effects. It's just the best font I can use. So obviously we've got a Kevin De Bruyne sort of thing. It's very basic, by the way, but that's just as easy as this tutorial. Now we're going to save this, and as you can see, I separate everything into folders. So we're going to put in the AE tutorials folder. This is just for me. As you can see, I did an Eden Hazard one, but I thought I'd do a better one. So we do KDB, we just put it as KDB. So basically, this is After Effects. Now, I've got the Portsmouth save After Effects stuff that I do loaded up already. But I'll show you exactly how many sort of segments I had with the Sunderland one. That took a while for me to actually crack. It generally took a while for me to actually get the hang of. I mean, actually, I can't even remember where I saved it. So, yeah, forget about that then. Let's just do the Capital Cities Challenge one, because I know where exactly that is. So, as you can see, I'll just go to the After Effects part. Now, with Capital Cities Challenge, you can see that I've got a lot of... So, I've got these formations ready and everything, and then I've got the players going into the position which they're playing for me. It zooms in and out, and then drags out. And that's exactly what we're going to try and do. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and make a new project, and then we're going to make a new composition. Now, the composition settings I pick is 1920 by 1080, so it's 16 by 9, 29 frames per second, and then we're going to make the duration 10 seconds, just for the ease of this. I mean, I think my composition for the team sheets are about 40 seconds, so this is just showing you how the player comes up and then scales down into position. So we obviously need a background, so I'm just going to pick a random background that I have still. So we're going to go into the pause folder, and then we're going to just put this background into After Effects. Now, if you click and drag a file in the sort of Explorer into After Effects, it will allow you to then have it in the project files here. Obviously, we've got the background now, so what we're going to do is click the background, and then drag it down to the composition down here. So as you can see, now the background is there. Now I'm just going to lock it just for the ease of this, because sometimes I end up clicking this and moving it out of the way, and it just becomes a faff, a hassle. I mean, it's not really the words I was looking for there. Moving on. So as you can see, now we've got the background there. Now I'm going to add a pitch. So I do the pitch in Photoshop as well. I will show. I think I remember where I saved that one though. So if I go to same Sunderland pitch. Oh, so obviously I made the pitch into here. So this is where I changed it. So I changed the colour of it to the blue, obviously, because I was then managing Portsmouth afterwards. And then I changed the pitch perspective, so I think there's like a transform button here. And then if you select the actual layer and then do the perspective, you can change the way it looks. So obviously I have the goal that's closest to us, which looks a bit closer to you on the screen. And then the goal which is further away on the screen. Simple as. So that's the pitch basically done. So that's how I do it in Photoshop. So we're just going to then import that into After Effects. And then we're going to put that into the composition. So click and drag onto the composition. So there we go. Now, like moving it will be easier once I tell you how to move the Kevin De Bruyne. And then you can learn how to move like the pitch and how to move the background and all that. So all we're going to do is we're going to get the Kevin De Bruyne. So I'm going to go over to the After Effects tutorial folder I just made. And then we're going to click and drag the Kevin De Bruyne in. We're going to actually use the Eden Hazard as well. I don't know if it's the same size. That might be an issue if it isn't. In the respect that if they're not the same size, then it becomes a problem scaling it. If I think they're the same. Yeah, no, they're the same size, sort of. But as you see, we've got... Kevin De Bruyne and Eden Hazard. So I basically just picked two players that I normally will have here. So what you want to do with this, so these are obviously two midfielders and they're going to go into the middle of the pitch. That's where we're going to play them in this scenario. So as you can see, we've got the two selected. So you want to select both of them there. Now, just for the ease of this, I'm going to change that layer to Hazard. In order to change the name of a layer, you want to click the layer and press enter, and then it will allow you to change the name straight away. But we're just going to change it to Hazard, just for the ease for me. So as you can see, now we've got these two here. Now what you want to do is then press P on your keyboard once you've got the two layers selected, and it will bring down this drop down menu for position. So now obviously when we change it, they move on the screen, and this is how we're going to animate it. So we're just going to put them into the center. I'm going to just... oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's just move them up to about there. Yeah, we'll move them to about there. So you can see, that's what we're going to do. So now we're going to move probably a second forward. And we're going to click the stopwatch next to the position for both of them. We're going to click it there. And then we're going to go back to the start. and then we're going to select both the layers, and we're going to click and drag. I think it's the one on the right, so it drags them down basically. So as you can see, they're now dragging off the screen, and you see these two lines there. That's basically the path that the layer will follow. So these two keyframes you got here, that will basically tell the image where it's going to go, or the layer where it's going to go. So if we preview it, you can see these two come up, and it's not a very nice animation. It's just very slow and basic. So we're going to try and change this. So if you select all the keyframes, so click and drag into an open space and click and drag over, select them all, press F9 on your keyboard. These easy ease these keyframes, so you can now change them in the graph editor, which is this thing here. In order to get the graph editor, you want to click the furthest right button on the top row here. So you see where the time is on the far left. It's literally that. And then you want to right click the graph and make sure that edit speed graph has been selected, because if you have edit value graph, that's not really going to change anything. It's the edit speed graph that you want to do. So now we're going to try and make it like come up slowly and then pop it in. So I think we'll have to do the end one. So if you click and drag into the open space again and then select over this area here, it will bring up these two like yellow sort of tabs, and then you want to click and drag one of the yellow tabs. Actually, no, I think it's the other way. You want to do it for the first one, so it's going to go slow and then pop up. So drag it in to the center a little bit, and we're just going to check what that looks like. So I'm just going to quickly go back to the composition, and no, I think it's too fast. Let's move the keyframes to 2 seconds. Let's see if that makes a difference. It's sort of okay. Well, that's sort of right. I think for the ease of this tutorial and to make it look better, we're going to go back into the graph editor, obviously. And we're going to drag these tabs both into the center. So these two tabs... Oh, that hasn't worked how planned. You've got to make sure that you have selected both the keyframes. Okay, that's all done. So now essentially they should... Yeah, that's a pretty nice animation. I think the hazard one's slightly out in terms of timing, so we're just gonna quickly adjust that. There we go, that should be fine. So they should pop up on the screen at the same time. There we go. So we got the first basic done. So as you can see, now they're into the position where I normally talk about who I picked, and that's it. Now we're going to try and move them into the position. So what we're going to do is we're going to move 2 seconds more, and then make another keyframe. So you want to click these diamond sort of like buttons here, click diamonds, so then make another keyframe. So basically it's going to say just stay in position for those 2 seconds, and we're going to move into about 6 seconds, and then we're going to move the Kevin De Bruyne to about there, so he's going to play left wing, and Hazard is going to move to the right wing, and he's going to play there. So as you can see, now what the animation would do, it will tell the layer to pop up onto the screen, and then for 2 seconds stay in position, and then it will move out to the right. That's fine. Now we just need to scale them down to make sure that they go into the position I want them to, and scale at the same time. Same principle applies again. So we're going to select both the layers, and we're going to press S on our keyboard to bring up the scale tab. So as you can see, they're 100% scale. That's sort of what we want. So this is where the players will start to move. This section here, 4 seconds, this is where the players are going to move into the position. So once again, we're going to make a keyframe, 2 there, and then we're going to move up to about 6 seconds to where the players move into position. And then we're going to select both the layers again and click and drag and scale them down. So we're going to make them about 40%. Yeah, 40% is alright. Actually, no, that's probably too small. Let's just make them 55%. That'll do. So now what basically it's now telling the layer to do is it's going to pop on the screen, stay in position for 2 seconds, and scale down and position at the same time. Actually, that hasn't... Yeah, there's not scaled down as well as I thought. But because of that, it's because we haven't edited the graph. Now, we're going to ease them again. So make sure you click and drag into the open space and select all the keyframes on both the Hazard and the De Bruyne layers. Go back to the graph, and we're going to select... Well, click and drag over the first like tab here, and then click and drag that into the middle. And the same applies for the other one. You want to click and drag, and then click and drag that into the middle as well. So what it should do is it should scale. Yeah, I think the scale is too slow. So we're going to click and drag that in. So it should scale, like descale at the same time it moves into position. Yeah, it's still not doing what I want it to do. So actually, I think what we're going to do is we're going to move the scales. We're going to move the scale like slightly behind. So we're going to click and drag all these keyframes, and then it's going to scale down before it moves into position. So I think that's what we're going to do. So as you can see, it now scales down and moves into position. And that is pretty much it, I think, in terms of the team lineup. And yeah, so as you can see now, what it should do is... Actually, a quick tip. If you select both the layers and then press U on your keyboard, it'll bring up all these sort of like changes that you've made in terms of the layers. Oh, sorry. And on the layer, it will bring up all the changes you've made in terms of the position, the scale, or any other effects you've added to it. So it only brings up those keyframes. So as you can see, we're going to just preview that again. So it pops up. Oh, actually, we're going to fit that up to 100%. So just easy for you. So now it pops up. And then what it's going to do is then drop and scale and then move into position. That's literally it. That's all you have to do in terms of moving it into the team lineup. Now, one more tip as well. Let's say, for example, you're not playing 2 on the wings at all. You're going to play 1 in the middle or something and 1 behind him, or 1 up front in like 4-4-1-1. So instead of 4-2-3-1, it becomes a 4-4-1-1. So what you're going to do for that is you want to change the position on where it pops up, because essentially you're going to have one that's going to go like around here and then one that's going to go up here. So we're going to change the keyframes and we're going to click and drag them all, and De Bruyne is going to play up front in this instance. So we just want to sort of delay it. We want to delay it to over here. So I'm going to change the composition setting so it's just a bit longer. So about 20 seconds we're going to make it. And then I'm going to zoom out and just need to make sure that all the layers are at the end. That's fine, so they actually appear. So you can see now what we're going to... Hazard's going to go onto the left and De Bruyne is going to go... Sorry, Hazard's going to go onto the right, De Bruyne is going to go onto the left. But what we want to do is change the position of Hazard into here. Now, if you move it, like if it's over a different keyframe, so as you see the position, there's no keyframe there. If you obviously change it, it will... Oh, sorry. If you change it, it will change there. So what it's going to do is just going to mess up. So the player's going to then move from one keyframe to that keyframe, back to that keyframe. That's not exactly what you want. So what we have to do here is we have to click and make sure all the keyframes for the first 3 are selected. Actually, no, I don't think you have to... No, sorry. What am I talking about? No, you just go to the last keyframe, and then you'll want to move in about there. And then, obviously, Hazard then moves into position. And then with that one, like with De Bruyne, you want to go to the last keyframe again, and then click and drag and move in there. And that's literally it. I was trying to think of a easier way of doing it, but I think that's actually the easiest way you can do it. In terms of Hazard being in the middle, I think that's probably what I will explain. So Hazard, you want to be in the middle. You don't want to be on the right. You don't want to keep him in the same position, because if there's only one play, he always should be in the middle. So for that one, what we're going to do is we're going to then select the first 3 keyframes, because the last one is essentially the position he's on the pitch. The first 3 are where he's on the screen, if that makes any sense. So we're going to select those 2, and we're going to click and drag this X coordinate to bring it across. So as you can see, if you selected all 3 keyframes, and you have to be hovering over one of the keyframes that has been selected as well, otherwise it will just mess it up. So as you can see now, he moves like, or the whole path moves into where I'm aiming it altogether. So if we now play it, he now moves up into the center rather than on the right, and then scales down into the position. Obviously you would have to change the scale and the position in accordance to where he's playing, because if it's a striker you want to scale it quicker, because obviously there's not much of a path he has to like follow. In terms of if they're playing on the wings, then obviously there's a bigger path they have to follow, because they have to come up on the screen and then scale downwards like diagonal. If you're playing as a lone striker, for example, he'll like pop up on the screen and then just move like upwards slightly, and that's it. It's not really much of a complicated path. That's what I was trying to say. And it'll be the same with the De Bruyne. So if we get the De Bruyne, go over or move the timeline sort of thing here over the second keyframe, click and drag over the first 3 keyframes, and then you want to change the X coordinates, so then we're going to move that into the center as well. We try and make it the same coordinates as the hazard, and that's literally it. So as you can see, now they've changed position, so the hazard now pops onto the screen and goes as striker, and obviously it would be a different way because the midfielder should come before the striker, and then De Bruyne pops up onto the screen and then moves into his central midfield position. And that's literally it. That is literally how you do the team lineup. And then obviously you can make it more complicated by adding more players, and you know, you have to make sure you change them. And one more tip actually before I go. Now, you know, if you are playing the same formation 2 games in a row, so let's say you're playing the 4-2-3-1 against Arsenal and Bayer Leverkusen or something like that, and you change the players that are playing in the team, you don't have to then import the player again and change it. It's a very easy way. So if we get this Hazard, for example, and we want to change it to Kevin De Bruyne and change the Kevin De Bruyne to Hazard, what we do is select the Kevin De Bruyne sort of layer here, and then you want to hold Alt and then select the Hazard layer up here in the project files. So then it selects them both. Oh no, yeah, and then it selects them both, and then hold Alt. Oh no, you hold. Obviously, there will be times as well where you change the player on the position that they're playing in, or you'll change, you know, the formation. One more tip before I go as well. If you're playing a different team but in the same formation, there is an easy way of changing the players that are on the screen instead of having to import them again and doing all the keyframes. If you select the player here, if you select in the project files first, so let's say the Hazard, we're going to swap the Kevin De Bruyne with a Hazard. So you want to select the Hazard first in the project files, and then select the Kevin De Bruyne there, and then if you hold Alt and then select the Hazard tab in the project files up here, and then hover it over the Kevin De Bruyne, it will automatically change the layer, which is basically getting it from the project files. So essentially, the Hazard would then move to where the Kevin De Bruyne was, and then if we want to make the Kevin De Bruyne go up front, we select the Hazard layer, select the Kevin De Bruyne layer up here, hold Alt, and then drag it over the Hazard layer, and then as you can see, it now changes to Kevin De Bruyne. And that's literally it. That's how you change the players on the screen. So if you're, as I said, if you're playing the same formation, but you want to just change the players, that's exactly how you do it. And that will bring to the end of the tutorial on how to do the team sheet lineup that I did in the Sunderland series. Obviously there'll be one more tutorial coming out about the fixtures, but that will bring to the end of the tutorial on how to do the team sheet lineup, and hopefully you've enjoyed this. There is going to be another tutorial coming out in a few days about how to do the fixture list, how I get it to drop down from the menu. Once again, that will need Photoshop and After Effects, but hopefully you've got the gist of how I do the team sheet lineup, and then obviously you can add more layers to it and changing the keyframes and all that. And that's literally the basics of how I do the team sheet lineup. And then obviously if you want to render it, finally before I go, if you want to render it, you want to, this tab here, or this sort of like a grey bar up here, this is basically the render, or how much you want it to render, the time ruler you could say. And if you click and drag, so let's say we only want to render the first 10 seconds, you'll click and drag this yellow sort of icon over here to 10 seconds, and then it will only render up to about there. Then you'll want to press Ctrl M on your keyboards, and it'll bring up this render sort of menu, and then you just select your sort of settings that you want to do. So the ones I will recommend, this is only for me by the way, I only recommend this. Now I've already set this output module as a sort of saved file, but I only do it in QuickTime, and I also make sure the channels are RGB and alpha. That's honestly it, and because for some things, like if the team sheet lineup was to pop up onto the screen, I would need it to be invisible underneath, so it would just pop up on top of, let's say, you know, the fixture list that would be on the previous screen. But that is going to bring to the end of the tutorial. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. As I said, there will be another one coming out soon about the fixtures list, and hopefully I see a few of you using this in your Football Manager videos, because it's definitely very good to have as to the presentation of the video. I'm not a very good tutorial person, am I? Let's face it.